Welcome everyone. Approaches of project management. This is the context of today's presentations. We will talk about the various approaches that one can take to perhaps complete a project in a successful fashion. So, agenda is very simple, as in what is the project, how does project management benefit you, the PCM or the project life cycle, which takes up precedences. We'll talk about the PCM tools or the project cycle management tools. What are they? And the expectations of our project managers thereby. So, what is a project? Let us try to dissect what is a project. A project is what which has a definite start time and a definite end time. It tells me exactly what is to be expected as in the end result, the cost, the scope, the duration, are temporary endeavors undertaken to create a unique product, absolutely services or result, or basically the outcomes are very much clearly stated out here. So we want quick delivery of food, one of those services. We want a product which is equally friendly with a person who is not even computer literate. So we need to go around it. It's a definite program that comes around it as a unique thing that has been the end result, a series of activities aimed at bringing out clearly specific objectives within a definite period of time and a budget. So this is what we are talking about, the European Union's aid delivery methods as per se. Let us understand the advantages of project management. Project management was developed to save time, to save cost by properly planning a project and considering all relevant factors which may affect the outcome. The benefit has been proven. It saves time, it saves money, it generates a most successful outcome if the guidelines are to be followed as on when on basis. So how does project management actually gets benefited? You will be having a clear clarity of understanding what the goal is all about it, what is the return on investment, what is the average amount of time that is spent on an activity. Everything has been categorically stated and measured. Your resources will be coordinated, your risk will be identified and properly mitigated thereby. You will increase the possibilities of savings times, you will increase the possibilities of saving costs, because time is money. If you save one thing, the other gets automatically saved around it. You will have an increased possibility to achieve the desired goal. The increase in possibilities to desire to successfully see the culmination of the project thereby. What are we looking at it? We are looking at improved qualities in terms of the project outcome. Decision making groups and processes are very clearly distilled stated. Deadline, cost, and resources are controlled systematically. All processes in the project management activity chains are coordinated to ensure that they remain in harmony. They are in tandem with one another. One goes without a hitch how the project actually works around it. This will help us in getting much more efficiency, much more flexibility, and perhaps the best of all is the improved quality, not only in terms of services but also in terms of product, and that means greater customer satisfaction. So to get an improved quality, we will get a project management which is testily clear and tells you everything in black and white, what to expect and how to mitigate those problems thereby. That means an increased speed, a greater flexibilities, and improved quality. So, what project management helps you to achieve thereby? Plan task in a project, avoid dependencies, problems as on when on basis, reduce the risk thereby. We need to track progress absolutely on an absolute term, on a real time basis, organize project processes and timeline thereby. We improve the stakeholders, staff communication. How do we go ahead with it, and what does it all helps? Improve management of stakeholders expectation that comes around, complete within budget and on time. What are we looking into it? So project success factors. What are they? Let us count those factors which is imperative for any project per se. Number one is the involvement of the stakeholders. How involved are the stakeholders? How pertinent are they? How much of return that they are looking into it, and based on what amount of input that they're giving. So we are looking at an executive management supports. We are looking at clear statement of purpose, clear stated objective. There has to be clarity in the goals, which needs to be followed with a proper planning. Realistic expectations thereby, and the smaller project milestone as on when on basis. Competent staff, if we may say so. What are we looking at? We are looking at the ownership of the projects. As on when on basis, what are we looking? We are talking about clear visions, clear objectives. These are the project success factors: stakeholders involvement, executive management support, clear statement of requirements, proper planning, realistic expectations, smaller project milestone, competent staff, ownership, clear visions and objectives thereby. And last but not the least would be a hard working and probably focused staff thereof. Now, there might be certain things which are detrimental in achieving the project success factors. And what are the three major reasons? The stakeholders relation that might get sour, that might get broken, communication line gets abrupted for different reason, and there are plentiful of reason for you to find it out. So that's one of the things that needs to be managed is stakeholder relationship. We are talking about cost, wherein one of the team members says the cost has been escalated. The other team member, other aspect says the cost was very much rationalized and was very pertinent. Then we are talking about the qualities. Qualities is where everybody have different stance, different outlook. And last but not the least would be your time concept. Again, there is a dispute with the stakeholder relationships based on the culmination of the project time. Some says it has been completed early, some says it has been extended beyond that time, some says the time has outrun the viability of the project thereby. And believe me or not, time, cost and quality is the issues between which actually the stakeholder relationships goes are. Let me introduce the term called PCMs or Project Cycle Management in the subsequent slide. So it's a methodology for preparation, for implementation and obvious evaluation of the project based on the logical framework approach. So again, this is project cycle management: preparation, implementation and evaluation, nothing else. These three steps. First is before the project begins, that's preparation. During the project is implementation, and post project completion is evaluation. What is the project cycle management? It describes the management activities, the decision making procedures used in during the life cycle of the project, key tasks, key roles and responsibility, key documents and decision options as the case might be. It is useful in designing, implementing, and monitoring a plan or a project. A clear, concise visual presentation of all key components of a plan and a basis of monitoring as a case might talk around it. Now, how do we come across with it? It clarifies how the project will work, what it is going to achieve, what factors relates to its success, how progress will be measured, as on when on basis. Now, let us understand the project cycle. First and foremost thing is your programming, as they say, right at the beginning, we start with the project programming. Now, once this has been done, we move to the next step of identification. Identification as far as financing is concerned, decisions, identification as far as who is going to execute the project. That is what the formulations is all about it. The financing decision, the implementation for the execution, and at the culmination of the project, we begin with evaluation. So yes, this is the project cycle that comes around it. Absolutely sure about it. From the programming to identification to formulation, implementation, evaluation comes goes on as far as possible. The three PCM principle project cycle management principles are: decisions making criteria should be defined and at each and every phases around it. The phases in the cycle are progressive in nature. Project identification part of the structured feedback as and when on basis. So this is the project cycle management principle is all about it. Clearly stated is the result. PCM requires the active participation of key stakeholders and aims to promote the local ownership as on when basis. PCM incorporates key assessment criteria into each stage of the project cycle. We are talking about the key assessment criteria. PCM requires the production of good quality key documents in each phases to support decision making as on when on basis. Every time we go around it, every time we work around it, project cycle management needs to be monitored minutely. It is a part of a country policy objective. Projects are relevant to the real targets, real problems of the real target groups and real beneficiaries, clearly identified stakeholders, primary target groups, and financial beneficiaries, as the case might be. Projects are feasible, objectives are realistic, clearly defined coordination, management, financing arrangements, monitoring, and evaluation as and when on basis. So we need to understand how relevant the project is to the real problems for the target groups, how feasible are they, and what all advantages that the project's likely to be generating. Is it sustainable over a period of time or not? These are the questions that needs to be asked. So let me proceed with the tools that comes with project cycle management, the logical framework, the quality assessment criteria, the institutional capacity assessment, the economic and financial analysis. So these are the tools that needs to be taken into consideration. Again, the logical framework, is it sustainable? Is it achievable? Does it removes any problem? Does it create any problem? We need to look at the quality assessment criteria as for the average amount of money spent, per person it benefits. Institutional capacity assessment, as it can it be executed, can it be monitored, can it be controlled, managed. Economic and financial analysis, how good are we looking at spending pattern, promoting participatory approaches then and there. So let us talk about time management. Remember, the Chinese proverb is something which I've already put in the very first. An inch of time cannot be brought by an inch of gold. Remember, gold can be purchased in pounds but not in inch. Similarly, inch can be only measure the distance but not time. Time has to be measured in seconds and hours. So you look at the paradox out here: an inch of time cannot be brought by an inch of gold. So defining project and activities is a must. The scheduling of project, the start time, the finish time, the milestone needs to be created and clearly communicated. Create and controlling the project activities thereby. So with the management grid, what happens if we look into it on the basis of importance on y-axis and urgency on x-axis? Quadrant Y becomes urgent and important. It is always on the 12th hour, the 11th hour, you are in a firefighting mode. It is urgent and important because if things goes wrong, the project falters. So urgency is huge, even the importance is huge. But what happens when the urgency is less but the importance is high? So it is important but not very urgent. So we can spend quality time altogether. We can take the luxury of the time probably and take our resources and come up with the best product if it is planned properly. In cases if it is urgent but absolutely not important, so this is basically a distraction. So it is urgent means there might be small things that needs to be taken care of. For example, you might need to purchase a raw material because the prices are at the rock bottom. If you don't make a purchase, probably you are going to miss the ship. So it is urgent, but then not important. But the raw material is not going to be consumed immediately, right? In quadrant form, it is neither important nor urgent. So it basically is time wasters wherein you are doing anything and everything but nothing which is related to the projects. Remember the fact that there is an old joke which comes with project management. It says that 90% of the project schedule takes 90% of the time. The first 90%, remember, first 90% takes the 90% of the time, and the last 10% also takes the 90% of the time. So ultimately, it says you can finish the work of 90% of the project, and the last 10% of the time, 10% of the project more or less on a 50-50 basis. They will take equal amount of time. Let's say passing of the bill, clearing of the accounts, getting it certified, getting the quality criteria corrected every now and then. And that is the time management grid is all about it. Managing the scope of the project. Project scope management constitute the process to ensure that the projects include all of the work required, and not only the work required to complete the project successfully, we need to do it diligently. Project scopes has several purposes. It defines what work is needed to complete the project activities. It determines what is included in the project. It serves as a guide to determine what work is to be needed to be completed with the project objective. It serves as a point of reference of what is not included. Let us state that the role of the project managers. The role of the project managers is affected by one shot nature of the project. The role of the project manager is difficult when team members are still linked to the permanent work areas. Members may be assigned to several projects and simultaneously they might be working on several projects simultaneously. Managers must rely on their communication skills and the powers of persuasions as on when on basis. So let us understand the attributes of PM or the project managers thereby. What are the characteristics that he or perhaps she should be displaying? Displaying the characteristics of leader, that of manager, that of facilitators, that of coordinator, a person who is an excellent communicator, credible. Credibility is of prime importance in terms of being technical and administrative. They should be working under deadlines, working under pressure, working under constraints, both in terms of resource deployment, in terms of accomplishing in a shorter span of time. They should be absolutely goal oriented, and probably they should come and think out of the box, be an innovator and versatilist, so that their objective is met and the project objectives are never compromised. And these are essential attributes of project managers as on when on basis. Again, repeating it for your understanding, as a leader, as a manager, as a facilitator, as a coordinator, as an excellent communicator, should be technically and administratively very much credible, working under pressure. They should be goal oriented, they should be innovators and versatilists. Apart from it, they should have no dearth of knowledges about the organization. They should be equally politically sensitive, conflicting sense, confront, resolve, can deal with stress, chaos, ambiguity, planning and follow through, ethical dilemmas as the case might be. This is what we are looking forward to it. Let us understand, are we discussing a Superman? Probably yes. We are looking at a number of specialists and a generalist load. A Superman, a project manager has to fulfill both the role of a generalist and the role that of a specialist, so that they have to be exactly the word called versatilist. They should know and into the thick of things that is pertaining to the project that comes around it. So let us talk about the project manager duties. Reports to the senior managers probably at the end of the day. As a Superman, he or she is not as super as it because their wings are clipped. They need to understand and pacify the senior management, communicate with the other stakeholders, with the end users. You need to communicate your plans, your schedules, obtain and allocate resources as on when on basis, control the risk, manage people. This is what we are all looking forward to. Coordinate, implement quality assurances as on when on basis, control the budget, what we can go around it, and deliver result. Possibly this is what is expected. Now let us talk about the project teams. What comes with project teams is the diversity of knowledge needed. Absolutely well spoken knowledge from a different background, be it computers, be it technical, be it engineering, be it medical, any and every knowledge that pertains to the project. So we have to be cross-functional, essentially a self-directed person. Project team should be ad hoc and probably temporary. Why? Because the moment the project objectives have been met, they can be dismantled. But they can be again assembled for the accomplishment of a similar objective in a different fashion. So often distributed over a period of places, as in geographically, they has to be project team has to have a perfect start and finish time thereby. So let us understand the skills of the personals who are managing a project. They can be technical, they can be political, they can be problem oriented, vis-a-vis discipline oriented. Now we are talking about technical skills, political skills, and problem oriented skills. When I say problem oriented skills, thinking out of box, be innovations, how it goes around it. They should be always be self-directed. They should always be goal-oriented. They should be completely focused, at the same time flexible and adaptable. Have an extremely high self-esteem, can handle failure, can handle risk, can handle uncertainty, or even unexpected outcomes. That is the self-esteem that goes around it. They can share the blame. They can share the credit, and so on and so forth. They should be open minded, they should be reciprocative, they should be receptive to the ideas that comes around it, and accept the fact that anything and everything can happen around. Government projects are legal constraints on government projects, law, statutes, ordinance, directives, regulations, budgets, and policies. We're talking about accountability to the public, accountability to the legislative and judicial bodies, interest groups, the press, and the public thereby. What is the utilizations of the public resources? Objectives are not very high on a return on investment, but on the public good, as the case might be. We'll talk about the project governance now, as in the administration of the project goes around it. Now we talk about risk planning. It's balancing the risk avoidance and probably the risk accepted. So, what is your tolerance level of accepting risk thereby? The LCM, the life cycle management, from the conceptual part to the execution part, to the handing over part, and even to the replacement part. We are talking about the strategic change, as in balancing the solutions and the ability to utilize as often as possible. Value management is all about adapting, all about consisting processes, building in quality and adding values thereby. This is what is value management. Now we come to the very last slide of the day as far as this management scope is concerned. So what is the methodology? The way the things have been done out here, the communication, the consistency, the understanding, and accountability is what we are looking for it. Yeah, the methodology is very clearly stating it out in black and white of what is expected and what is not, what has been communicated and what has been the end result that comes around it. So project management versus other activities, this way the project management uses a similar approach for all situations. With this, I come to an end of this presentation. Thank you for watching this video till the end.